Hi, I'm Evelyn.
I'm Alexis.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Anna.
We are the Marmalade Mermaids. This week, our flag means vision. Season 2, Episode 3, The Innkeeper.
Alexis, would you please tell us how many page numbers we have to pick from?
We have 37 pages of text.
Anna,
And
who
tell me
picks
a
a
number.
page?
Katie. It's Katie's turn to pick.
Oh, could I please pick 16?
All right, Katie, 1 through 7.
Oh, I picked 2.
Yes.
Let's do 6.
If your captain senses mutiny, she'll kill us all. That's pirate code.
Oh, okay.
Evelyn, can you tell us what's literally happening?
They are in the captain quarters. It's a conversation between Steed and Izzy. Basically, what led up to that is that Izzy was honest as to what happened to Ed, and pretty much at this point Izzy is just trying to protect protect the crew, because he knows that these are these are the typical pirates, and this is what it's normally done in situations like this. And so it's just we have to kind of you need to help in keeping this on the down low so that we can survive.
The second part of Lectio is we're going to say, what does this remind us of figuratively in other texts, in popular culture, in scriptures? Just all of the codification of laws, like we have to have, even in a lawless society like pirates, we have to have some sense of order. And one of the things is if you have mutiny on a ship, you got to die. And one of the things is if you steal my goat, then I get to, ask this of you or whatever, just laws. And whenever civilizations of people living together have to have some kind of code.
The first thing I thought of was diseases, like cancers. We just cut them out. And thinking of the laws and things, it also made me think of the idea that you can't kill an idea. If mutiny's happening, there's no way we can really stop that idea from spreading. We just have to stop the people who are spreading it. No, that doesn't even make sense, because the idea doesn't die, just everyone who's been infected by the idea.
Wait, say that again.
Okay, so
Yeah,
the idea cannot die.
Yeah.
Right? So if mutiny is the idea, you have to kill all the infected with that idea.
Maybe.
I know, it's not a great thing.
I think it works. Yeah, it makes sense.
Well, and also this quid pro quo, right? That's a very Faustian kind of thing. I'm going to give you this information. And Izzy doesn't really give him all the information, but I'm going to give you this information. But the trade-off is you have to keep it a secret. And how bizarre is it? This is not related to Lectio, but how bizarre is it that Steed, he's like me. His very first thing, oh, I'm going to go fix this. So I'm going to go tell the captain exactly what you told me. No, it's exactly what I asked you not to do. And Steed is not saying, I'm going to die so that all of them don't have to. It's very, I don't know. It's very Old Testament-y, but I can't put my finger on why.
Well, I think it kind of lends itself to kind of the point we're talking about, of just that idea of, pirate code, or again, the rules of the sea, the ship is our world. The ship is our society. The ship is society, and I like books about nautical things. I like, all that kind of stuff. And so I've always been really fascinated by this idea of mutiny in this historical sense, that the worst thing you can do is say this person who's in charge of us. And if you're talking about the English army for a particular amount of time, people were pressed into service, which meant they would come through your village and they would drag you out of your house and they would throw you on a boat and say, you live here now. And if you try and leave, we're going to kill you. And so that idea of you're forced into this structure that you did not ask to be part of. And then the worst thing you can do is say, this is not working for me, because this person that you have, arbitrarily put in charge because you feel like they should be, is maybe not the best person to lead us in every single situation. But again, the actions of the captain historically are not as bad as the crew deciding to mutiny against the captain. So the captain can do actually a lot of really bad stuff, but it's really the crew who's like, oh no, you're going to get court-martialed and probably killed because you didn't agree to this thing. And again, if you're talking about a specific period of the British Navy, you didn't even ask to be part of this thing and you're required to follow it. So that's what it makes me think of, more of that sense of mutiny and the sense that it's a code. But again, has everyone agreed to this? And in the sense of pirates, I think it's interesting because everyone does agree to it. Like that's just what the code is. And I do think your point is funny about Steed being like, okay, sure. And then he immediately runs off and tells Jing. And her response is interesting. She's like, well, it's at least mutiny adjacent. But again, I think the reason he tells her is because he understands she's not going to act that way. Because again, he sees that she's trying to build a new future for pirates and a new way to be. And again, maybe it's that, again, like that vision of like, what if it wasn't this way? What if it wasn't this way of that's pirate code? And if she smells mutiny, that's it. And I think Jing proves that to be true. Like, she's not saying we're going to kill them right away. She's like, well, I am kind of feeling merciful.
What do you think is the point where he decides we've got to escape and I've got a plan?
That's a really good question. Don't know. I need to think. When does
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's the moment Ed is found. I think they say, we found Ed. Auntie comes and says, we found Ed. Steed is like, we are getting out of here. I don't care if it's his dead body, but I've got some answers and we're getting out of here.
No, I think you're right, because he talks to her before they find the body, right? And then they find Ed's body. And then, oh no, I think you're right. I think that's it. I agree with that, Katie.
I think Izzy's fear of mutiny makes so much sense, though, even for pirates, because I think of like North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. And her brother is like not able to, he like lives in Spain. He's not able to have like a normal life, even though their captain was like incredibly abusive and dangerous to have as a person just around. Like, even if he wasn't in charge, just him existing was dangerous. And all of the other boys that were on his ship that mutinied, I think were like tried and hung or something. And he ran and got away, and then has to live with that like grossness the rest of his life until they get enough lawyers to kind of, and then even then he still doesn't like come back to the country. And that was like what Anna was talking about, that was like legal according to the laws then. So it could be even more ruthless maybe as pirates, like you don't always get as merciful as Jackie, like cutting off your nose. It could be like, nope, you're dead and everyone you love is gonna die. Which I don't know if pirates have friends. Calico Jack doesn't think so.
That's a good point, though. Yeah, because I think I like that idea that Jackie's merciful when she just takes the nose. Like, oh, Jackie the merciful. I like that. But I do. Yeah, I do think it's point that Izzy's concern is well founded, because he knows they didn't just abandon Ed. That's the thing. Like, Steed goes to Jing because he thinks, oh, they just abandoned him and they had good reason. They couldn't keep on living that way. But Izzy knows the truth is that they killed Ed. As far as they know, they killed Ed, which again, I think is why then they're put in the prison area or the brig or whatever, and that they're going to, be executed. It's not because they abandoned Ed on the beach. It's because, he was their captain and they killed him. Again, as far as they know.
Third step, where do we see this line in our lives? If your captain senses mutiny, she'll kill us all. It's pirate code.
Okay, this might harken back just a bit, but you mentioned North and South. And in that same production, when our heroine first meets our hero, he is yelling at someone who's smoking in the factory because that can cause serious death and like burn down the whole factory. And she sees it as super harsh. And he's like, no, this is really vitally important. And it's worth everything I can do to make him stop and yell. And he loses his job and all of those things. And it feels like this line, like if he senses that, he's just going to cut you out. That's the code to keep us all safe. And I wonder in my life, like, are there any things that I follow like that? Like, I have accepted that this is the way, and it's so important that I will yell or cut people out or whatever to sustain that.
Yeah, I think it's a good point that we all have our own code, and that there are those boundaries or limits that we have, maybe if we're not even aware of them, that when people kind of cross them, and then once we understand it's happened, because that's the thing, like something could happen and we may not be aware of it, but then once we're aware of it, once we sense the mutiny, then okay, yeah, we're going to have to cut you out. And so yeah, just thinking about what those things are for us, and then that also makes me think of what they are for other people, that there maybe was this code that someone had. And I can think of like a friendship where I had a couple of friendships where this person had this code of like, you're around for this reason, and I didn't know that. And then all of a sudden I understood, like, oh, I was only your friend for this particular reason, and now, not that I did anything wrong, but now that reason no longer applies, so you're never going to talk to me again, or maybe in some way I actually did something that did kind of violate some code that they had that I'm, again, not aware of. But for them, it was this clean, like, yep, I'm fine never speaking to you again and never telling you why. And so I think it's that being on both sides of it, of understanding like what we most value is most important to us. And then when someone goes against that, like, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to make a tough call here. But then also too, on the flip side of when we are on the receiving end of that, and whether or not we understand what happened, and whether we're trying to repair it or protect it or whatever. But yeah, it's just interesting being on both sides of like that sense of your personal code or someone else's personal code.
And how people's are different, right? Because sometimes it's like we communicate those things like what you're talking about, and some people are like, "Oh, we're just gonna pretend like it never happened." I'm like, you're dead to me now.
Which, that's I think, again, like, I think it's trying to be understandable about that. Like, okay, this must be a really big deal because,
Yeah.
that's how you feel, and that's okay. As long as you can, I guess, be somewhat kind about it. But yeah, it's just saying,
Yeah,
like, it feels very weird
absolutely.
on the receiving end to be like, I don't know, they were my friend one day, and then the next day,
Yeah.
I never saw them for the rest of my life. It's just, again, like a weird thing. But again, understanding the person's side of it was like, I don't know, there was something, and
Yeah.
you are now dead to them.
Yeah. Right. I don't mean it. Sorry, I don't mean it in like a callous way. It's just one
No,
of
I
those
got it.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that when someone has those, just they kind of show you what they're comfortable with. Sometimes other people are not comfortable with that, and I'm like, oh, you don't get to treat me any kind of way, and then we don't dialogue about it, and now everything's supposed to pretend like it's fine. But yeah, on your end, sometimes people will just, yeah, I think that it's a very much, pirate code is very clean, right? And
Mhm.
relationships and our personal codes can be very sticky.
Was there more? Because I really feel called to do something. My next step.
I don't feel called for anything.
So mine is very much connected to the theme, like vision. Like I want to look and have more clarity and vision of like what is my code? Where am I seeing it being maybe violated or close to being violated, and how do I react, and just be a more observant. I don't want to judge yet. I just want to like, where are those lines and what happens when that happens?
I like that.
I like that too. I think I had a hard time trying to figure out what my like seeing this seeing this line and like relating it and then further like what I'm called to do, but I think that like this conversation has given me a little bit more of a perspective. But I know my like when it comes to my personal code, I'm very much like an intro. No, I'm not very much. I am an introvert. And that's just how I naturally am. And one of the things that I've always just have difficulty with is just communication. Like it's nothing like personal against the other person. I don't know, I just don't naturally I just don't come to think to like um go out like talk to people. And like a lot of like my old like I have like very few old friends, and I would say one of them knows exactly how I kind of just operate, and it like so she knows to like reach out to me and like kind of reach out to me to talk to me because I just don't like naturally like I'm not naturally inclined to do that. Like I just very much am just the quiet, keep to myself person. And it's never like anything against the other person. Like there was one time at work where one of my coworkers immediately thought I didn't like this person because I wasn't talking. And I was like, no, that's not it at all. I just like when I don't know the person, I just shut down. I don't say anything. It like Ben puts it as a way when it comes to introverts because he loves introverts for some reason. But he puts it away as like they're kind of like a wild animal where you kind of have to like be persistent and consistent and everything and showcase that you are safe and you're not like a danger or anything, but you have to like kind of be persistent with them. And I'm like, that is actually kind of true. Because it's just like we are okay to be like in our little inner bubble and that's kind of it and stuff. And so like most of our friends are the ones that are persistent and like, hey, let's go do this, or hey, how's it going, or what are you doing? And it's just all like because we do really appreciate that. Like I really do love that because like I do have moments where I'm like, I am such a lonely person. But other times, like, I know myself as in, like, yeah, but you're also okay with that for some reason. It's like, yes, but I do enjoy, like, I do very genuinely enjoy other, like, having, like, other people as company. But I think one of the, like, so what I'm saying to the point is that I think just understanding my code and basically telling people this is just kind of how I am. And I think that's like my call is just like, because my like one of my things is like I would love to like be more open and have more people around and stuff. I just don't do that. And it's like and I think people have this like different interpretation of me where it's just all like oh they just genuinely don't like me or stuff. It's like no, I really keep to myself and in my brain a lot. And it's just like I love when people interact with me and talk to me. Like I actually really do like that. But I think I need to like actually say something of like this isn't you. This is just how I am. And I like this interaction. I'm sorry that I don't say things or like appear that way, but no, that's just how I operate. So like knowing that this is my code and like realizing that other people don't like view that and like saying and like I should be more open and say that and say like who I am and to let them know like, hey, like sorry if you haven't heard from me in like forever. I just I don't think about it. Like when someone like one of my old friends like texted me and I always have to like I text back like days later. I'm like, I'm sorry. I saw your text. I read it. I loved it. And then I just like will like get distracted for a moment and just completely forget to like reply back. And then I will like reply back, but like some of them like no, that's how I just am.
That's amazing. Everything you just said is amazing. I love it.
You're just helping others see you better.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, and part of what you just said, Evelyn, is exactly what I felt called to do. Because when Alexa said, I feel called, I'm like, I don't feel called to do anything. But what you just said, I do. I feel really called because I think that that's something very human, right? Like
Mhm.
you interacted with people who are a certain way. So sometimes we put that persona on somebody new. And I will come across as very confident or like that I have very strong opinions, but that's not who I am inside. And that's not who my friends know me to be. Meaning that my friends know that I'm open minded. My friends know that inclusivity is very important to me. My friends know that I'm kind and nurturing. But for some reason, it's not when interact with children and not when I'm with my class. But when I'm with a group of adults, sometimes they have this perception of me that's very different than how I perceive myself. So I
Mhm.
think what I feel called to do is speak my code, which is like not not laughing at jokes that are kind of mean, like
Mhm.
making sure that I'm really standing up for saying kind things, and not allowing other people to say things that are unkind around me. Because I noticed that in one of my groups that I was with, when I was away from them, I'm like, I don't think as kind thoughts when I'm with them. I don't give people the same, like, I don't speak the same benefit of the doubt that I normally would when I'm with them because they were kind of a group of mean girls. And like, I could see them and appreciate them as people, but it wasn't until I was away from them, I'm like, they're kind of mean girls. And I'm not about that. And like, even as a child, I would be like, I don't want to play with you when you're going to act this way. So as an adult, I just need to be clearer to speak that code of like, my bottom line is kindness. And like, I'm not always kind, but I'm always going to try to be kind. And if you're not somebody who wants to try to be kind around me, then that's mutiny in my book. Like, that's not the kind of community I want to be around. So, like, let's find a way to be around each other that is kind. Um, is that nice to say? That's not nice to say to force cells. I'm not trying to say I'm going to force people to be kind. I'm just saying, like, I'm going back to
Yeah.
Joanne Freeman. Like, she's this powerhouse of a woman who has like the most um unassuming presence, but she just has this really beautiful, gracious way of saying like, these are my boundaries, and my this is what I expect, and I expect the best of you. And like, when we are with each other, that's what's going to happen. And if it doesn't, then we're going to work it out and we're going to get to a better place. And that's kind of what I strive for.
I think I feel called to, I guess I'm always very observant of other people. It's just, I'm also an introvert. So it's very much like, I say that my superpower is I'm invisible, but then that means like I can see like I can pick up what other people are
Yes.
doing and they're not aware of it. And so you can get a really good read on people. And I think what I'm called to do is just to embrace that sense of curiosity about other people's codes. Because
Mhm.
I think when you pay attention to people, you can, like, you know, like you're saying, Katie, like little subtle things happen before you get to that point when someone's like mutiny. You're like, okay. And again, if you're paying attention before we get to mutiny, you're like, oh, like I do get a sense of what your code is. Maybe, you know, obviously I'm not saying like I know you better than you know yourself, but I'm like, I can just get that sense of how we interact, what's important to you, like what makes up part of your code. And that can just help inform me understanding you better and me understanding, you know, what's important to you in this interaction or interactions in general. Because yeah, I agree. I think that there's this, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but we all have these things that help guide us and that we kind of feel more stressed out or more like we're not being seen and heard when people start to, again, like push back on those things that are really important to us, but we may not be able to articulate them. Or even the things that you value in the moment, like things you value this day at work or things you value this project you're working on, like the things that are most important to you, you maybe not will not be aware of. But then when someone isn't meeting that expectation or isn't showing up the way you think they should, or again, like isn't in line with your own value system, then that can be very distressing. So I guess, yeah, just picking up on those little moments of like, oh, I think this might be part of your code. And then what does that mean? You know, not that I have to change who I am or try
Mhm.
and, you know, be a people pleaser to like, oh, I have to fit into your code. I'm not saying that, but I do think there's something with just understanding what the other person's code is. And then being able to say like, oh, okay, well, I'm also me. So I get like, you know, people who may say like, oh, I need you to talk more and be really exuberant about everything. I'm like, that's just not who I am. And I understand if I don't do that, you think I don't like you. Like Evelyn, I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many times I was told growing up, people thought I was stuck up. But I'm like, I don't
No, I
understand.
know.
But a lot of people saw that. I'm like, okay, well, you know, and even up until college, I'd have college professors be like, I have no idea what you're thinking. I'm like, yeah, because I haven't said anything. I'm just thinking. These are my thoughts. They don't belong
Yeah.
to you. So again, it's not a problem just to be ourselves, but curiosity about other people's codes, I guess. Before we get to the mutiny phase is what I'm feel called to do.
Don't let it get to the mutiny
Anna,
Just
phase.
don't get to mutiny. if you can help it at
and
all.
if you do, I'm great at leading a mutiny. Like,
And then Katie can lead it.
Katie will just come in.
I'm the Black Pete of mutiny. Anna, I hear like, I wanted just to clarify. I like, in a simplistic version, I hear what you're saying is like, treat other people the way they would like to be treated, even if they don't state it. Is that kind of what you're saying you feel called?
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
part of it.
that's beautiful.
I think, yeah, I think that's part of it because yeah, people are kind of signaling who they are. We all are, even though we don't really realize it. We signal what's important to us. So yeah, I guess it's a thing of just like treat people the way they want to be treated. That's also in line with your own personal values. Like it has to feel
Right.
authentic for yourself. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's my
But
call.
I think that that's beautiful because what I hear from you is like, and what have experienced from being your friend is it's sometimes just a mental energy. It's like
Yeah.
sometimes it's not something that I'm going to do, so much as something I'm going to think towards you. And I think that there's a lot of power in that generous thought towards somebody else. So I
Yes,
appreciate
that's
that.
a great way to, yeah, that's a great way to explain how I try and move through the world is like, I'm just going to start thinking this way and have this energy and hold the space for this person. Even if I, again, going back to the introvert thing, even if I don't do anything or say anything, like I'm still like bringing this energy to the interaction. And I think personally for me, that has a lot of impact, or at least I see that has a lot of impact on the people I interact with.
All right. Evelyn, you get to bestow your blessing.
I think I'm going to go with I was trying to figure out really who I wanted to bless for a while there. And I'm thinking I'm gonna choose Frenchie because bless Frenchie. I feel like he first of all, it started off with like him having to force himself into like putting things into a box so he could be okay with things. And then kind of like I think he's the one who said it, but he was the one who said the line towards the end. It's like it's kind of good to have a deadline. So I'm just like I think he's starting like he even Frenchie is starting to get like was getting tired of everything that's been going on and stuff. And bless Frenchie because I think he has been such a like like throughout this like little span of like the chaos that Ed brought, just kind of a strong character throughout all this, like trying like just kind of maintaining him being himself and everything throughout. So bless that. And I just really loved him throughout the like those 3 episodes of like how he's just generally been. And even like this episode of like don't tell like trying to like help Fang like calm down. We need to like showcase that there was not mutiny that happened here because we're going to danger ourselves. Even though like Frenchie has been through a lot as like he should be kind of similar to Fang at this point of like I just can't handle what everything that's happened. But I love Frenchie because he was just bless him for being kind of like the maintaining that same aspect of himself throughout this entire series so far.
Alexis, who do you bless?
Oh, I didn't know what order I was going to go in. So I have a few in mind, but my heart feels called to bless Izzy because my heart aches for Izzy in this episode. There are so many times that he is reaching out to Steed and Steed's like shutting him down. And he has the best of intentions for everyone on that ship. And you could tell he's changed. He wants to signal to Steed that he's changed. Even at the end, when he just has a genuine thank you. There's so many times that I just like tears rolling down my cheek for Izzy on this episode. So please bless him.
I want to bless Auntie because she really plays her role so well in helping Zhang um, with her crew, Zhen with her crew, sorry. And in that she has this vision and this ability to see, even when other people don't believe in her, even when other people are like speaking against it. She's like, all right, I know what's real, and she keeps that peace within herself. So bless Auntie because she's great.
I'm gonna bless the vision itself. I'm gonna bless the original Marmalade Mermaid, Steed as Merman. Just just lovely, just lovely, lovely, lovely. That you know he's his best self as Ed sees him, and just looks amazing and says the
He was
things
so
that Ed
handsome
needs to
there.
hear. And what's that?
He was so handsome there.
He's so handsome. And yeah, to know that like that's how Ed sees him. Like that's how Ed experiences Steed, as this beautiful, sweet ball of light that's just like, I'm here for you and I love you and I'm, you know, smiling and it's gonna be okay and you're safe with me. And again, just blessings to that. I don't know, that vision of ourselves that you'd want to have, like, oh, who is my best self? Like when I'm showing up the way I really want to, and I'm looking the way I really want to, I'm doing all the things for those people that I love. You know, I just think that's a really beautiful thing and that we all have, even if we're not aware of it. But yeah, just blessings to that because it's there and it exists. Even if it's just the vision someone else has of us, we can't actually embody it, but we're still it. So just blessings for Steed. beautiful Little Mermaid.
Join us next time when we discuss Season 2, Episode 4, Fun and Games through the theme of community.
Until next time, ladies, when we can get together and talk it through as a crew.
I'm feeling a little merciful today.
The inevitable and yet the impossible.
Watch your breath.
Girl, how are you?